I said that we thought he was going to be traded. He wasn't. He's still here. He still might get traded. So what's it going to look like? Now, you probably heard that tease, and you thought I was talking about Kevin Durant. A lot of time spent this week on Kevin Durant being traded, and he's still here. He might still get traded in the summertime. So what's it going to look like? What if I told you that's not who I'm talking about? I'm talking about Jordan Montgomery of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Because all offseason, we thought, man, there's no way that Jordan Montgomery was going to be on this team for 2025. They'll find somebody. They'll pay down half the salary. They'll free up that money. They'll move on. And then they sign Corbin Burns, and it's like, okay, well, they're definitely going to move on from Jordan Montgomery. And yet here we are, February 7th. We're getting pretty close to some spring training games starting. And I don't know if you've looked at the Diamondbacks roster lately. I know we've been in basketball mode the last couple of weeks here on the show. But if you've looked at the roster the last couple of days, Jordan Montgomery's still there. Hasn't gone anywhere. So, let's have the Jordan Montgomery conversation. One of the other reasons why I wanted to bring this conversation up is because new pitching coach for the Arizona Diamondbacks, Brian Kaplan, was on Sirius XM radio recently. I saw the cut this morning. I don't know if it was yesterday or sometime this week. But I want you to listen to what the new pitching coach for the Arizona Diamondbacks had to say about Jordan Montgomery, because it's kind of similar to something that I've been saying about him recently.
I think, honestly, more than anything, he got burned a lot by kind of how everything went at the beginning of last year. I know that can sound like an excuse, but some of the most important times of the year is that build up in spring training into the early season. I know a lot of that was kind of disrupted by the whole negotiation process and everything. And then he was just trying to fit in a new place. I think he's kind of comfortable in his skin right now. He's had a really strong offseason. The communication I've had with him back and forth and some of the people he utilizes in the offseason to kind of get him in the right spot have been really good. He feels good. Some of the stuff I've gotten back from him is good. I think more than anything, like, yes, there'll be some, looking for a specific kind of sinker movement, a certain kind of movement on the curveball, some usage stuff. But more than anything, it's just getting off to a strong start, which was tough with the circumstances last year.
Pitching in baseball is all about habits. It's all about routines. You throw a starting pitcher off his routine, they could go from being a Cy Young caliber pitcher to all of a sudden being one of the worst pitchers in the game. Routine is so important. And so now you have a guy who is coming off of being a major player in the World Series, right? Jordan Montgomery, traded for at the deadline by the Texas Rangers, goes there from St. Louis and helps them win a championship, is thinking, I'm going to cash in from this. I was a major player in a team winning a championship. Everybody needs pitching. I'm going to hit free agency right now. This is where I am going to cash in and get the huge contract. We all know how that story went. He didn't get the huge contract. Month after month, week after week, day after day went by in the offseason, and Jordan Montgomery remained unsigned. So who swooped in at the last second? The Arizona Diamondbacks said, hey, you know what, Jordan? We've got a pretty nice opportunity here for you. We're going to allow you to train in a really nice place weather-wise. We are going to structure a contract for you that if you pitch incredibly well, you can opt out and hit the market and try to capitalize on that value. We get you as a starting pitcher for us that is World Series caliber. It is a win-win across the board. And because it was that late into spring training, not a lot of other options out there. The weather was probably a good draw. Jordan Montgomery did just see that team go to the World Series. It was their opposition that year. A lot of reasons to go to the other side and join the Diamondbacks, and so he did. But he joined spring training late, and he had to start the year in the minors and make a couple of starts down there before getting called up. I don't know Jordan Montgomery's entire career history, but my guess is since becoming a mainstay at the big league level, it would probably have been a while since he started the year in AAA. That he started the year, and oh, by the way, he's moved to a new city and then has to move to another new city to be in AAA and make a couple of starts. His entire routine was thrown off from the word go. Now, mind you, I am not trying to convince you that that is the only reason why Jordan Montgomery was bad last year. But all of a sudden now, he doesn't have to worry this offseason. He immediately opts into his deal, has one more year left on it. He doesn't have to pack any boxes unless he gets traded. He gets to work with the same group, albeit a new pitching coach, but he's got a lot of the same teammates. He doesn't have to worry about all that stress, and he can focus his entire offseason on getting better as a pitcher. And so that is the rosy outlook for Jordan Montgomery, is that having the stability, having a full offseason to work and not have to worry about taking meetings with all these teams and visiting all these different spots and trying to figure out what contract works for him and his family. He can just focus this entire offseason on pitching. He doesn't have to worry about all the other noise that surrounds it. Again, I am not trying to convince you that Jordan Montgomery is all of a sudden going to find it and be the guy that he was for Texas in their World Series run. But I am telling you that I think he can be a lot better than he was a year ago. That I think he can be a contributor to this team, whether it's as a long man out of the bullpen or as a spot starter on the backside of this rotation if they want to manage the workload of a Corbin Burns or they want to manage the workload of a Zach Gallen and they really want to make sure that those guys are healthy and ready to go for the stretch run. I still think Jordan Montgomery can serve a role for this team. Now, it's not a $20 million role. He's being overpaid. But that's the contract that the Diamondbacks agreed to. They couldn't find a suitor, at least not right now, so he is still going to be here. Now, we'll see. Maybe somebody gets hurt in spring training, and there's a need that pops up, and so somebody's willing to maybe pay for half of Jordan Montgomery's contract and take him on. So there's no guarantee that he's on this team, but it's been really quiet on that front basically all offseason. There was that brief flirtation with the Cody Bellinger for Jordan Montgomery swap that we talked about. There was this rumor that the Diamondbacks had proposed that. Bad contract for bad contract. You get out of your mess with Cody Bellinger. We get out of our mess with Jordan Montgomery. We'll work a swap that way. Other than that, hasn't really been a whole lot of movement here. Hasn't really been a whole lot of rumblings or rumors surrounding this. And so I ask you this question. Look at the rotation for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Who's going to be the top of the rotation? Well, you're going to have Corbin Burns up there. You're going to have Zach Allen up there. You're going to have Merrill Kelly. You're going to have Brennan Pfaadt. You're going to have Ryan Nelson. You're going to have Eduardo Rodriguez. Who are you going to have up there as your fifth or sixth guy? So going into the year, Jordan Montgomery is your seventh, eighth starting pitching option. What is the worst case scenario here? He is a long man and it doesn't really work out. How often do you use a long man in a game? Things go sideways quickly and you need somebody to mop up innings. So not really the highest leverage of situations to begin with. There is zero harm, none, in letting this play out. And if it doesn't work, you can just move on. You already have to pay the money as it is. You can do exactly. Remember when all of a sudden, and it wasn't really all of a sudden, we were just somewhat surprised that they actually went through and did it. When the Diamondbacks cut Madison Bumgarner when he wasn't pitching very well, and they just ate what was left on the deal. This deal ends at the end of the year. It's 1 year. You were already going to pay the money anyway. So if it doesn't work out and he doesn't thrive in whatever role he's in, then you can cut bait and move on and eat the money that you were already going to pay in the first place. I think there is zero harm in seeing this through. He is not going to be put in super high leverage situations. And if he does get put into those spots, it's going to be because he shows something early on that warrants that trust from Torey Lovullo. And you have the pitching coach right there kind of saying, there's some things we got to work on, pitch shape-wise. We got to get that sinker working again. We got to get it more down in the zone. There's some usage stuff that we've got to work on. But he's going to have a full offseason that he didn't have last year. He is going to have a full spring training, which he didn't have last year. He is going to get back to his routine, which he didn't have last year. And with pitching, that is so critically important. The Diamondbacks won 89 games last year, and they had a rotation that was all over the place. All over the place. They never found stability. So I don't expect him to make the rotation. I expect him to start in the bullpen. And that's where they moved him in the second half of last year. But I expect with a full offseason, with a full spring training, I think you will see a much improved Jordan Montgomery. Not a Jordan Montgomery that was worth the 2-year deal that he was given, but a Jordan Montgomery that can be a contributing player to this team. He will not be a negative to this team this year. That's my early prediction for Jordan Montgomery.